Alright, first of all, I felt that both teams did not stress the more in the mood. The more in the mood is very, very important. I think only one speaker was stressing on it. So we have more to fear than to cheer. There were some persons who did not. You had points, but you did not connect it to the mood. So you said that we can solve problems, we can do this, we can do that. But how does that show that we have more to fear than to cheer, or more to cheer than to fear? And you have to remember that you have to constantly repeat the mood itself, what you are arguing. Therefore, my opponents, this is why we believe that we have more to fear than to cheer. We have more to cheer than to fear. So you have to remember, repetition of the mood is very, very important. All right. The first speaker proposition, I think he focused on. I felt that the proposition, the first speaker he looked at tourism
and manufacturing.
Tourism and manufacturing, which was very good because we could actually follow that. We could zoom in on 2 points. But remember, it's a debate. You need to be more spirited. We need that passion. All right. And remember, sometimes the first speaker sets the entire tone for the entire debate. So if you go up there, you're not as passionate as you should be, then the other speakers tend to follow in kind order. So we felt that that was missing. Remember that we need sources. You cannot make statements without sources. Sources back up what you say. Even if we know it to be true per se, there must be some amount of source. Alright? There was too much reading, some amount of too much reading, but I felt that you managed enough for your, I think this is your first time or second time. I felt that I commented for that.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. You have to define ecology. Yeah, there was no definition for that. And also the opposition, and this is general for the opposition, you need to listen, because someone said, asking the point of information, I think came from the third speaker, about, I don't remember what it was, but when he made a reference, he was actually talking about manufacturing, not tourism. And you keep on harking on the first speaker about tourism, ignoring the fact that he also mentioned manufacturing. And first speaker on the opposition, what did he say? About pools. He spoke about much more than pools in terms of the impact of tourism on the environment, and that suggests that you're not listening. So if you're not listening, you won't be able to attack the points. Yeah, but you focus on, you trivialize this argument while we could hear that he had points. So if you identify the points and attack them instead of, just trivializing it with a swimming pool, when he talked about pollution for marine life and so on, the use of water, and there are droughts around, so you need to attack the points and not trivialize them.
Alright, the first speaker opposition. Alright, you had what I said. You had where I'm trying to find your sources. It was you're the first speaker, right? Yes, indeed. I heard 2. Some university, and then there was a second source. We felt that the argument was pedestrian, if I can use that word, in the sense that you focused on Halloween. To me, you needed more strength as a first speaker. I felt that Halloween was not the way to go, to start out an argument. And so for me, your argument was based more on emotion than facts. Alright, you have to have the facts to back it up. Alright, so that was my
Yeah, I thought the emotional appeal, and especially the general threats and the attack little game that you seem to have with each other was entertaining, but you need facts behind it. And the fact that Bin Laden's costumes sell doesn't mean that people don't still fear terrorism. If you go in an airport and scream bomb, especially in America, the effect will be the same whether or not everybody is wearing Bin Laden's costumes.
The second speaker opposition, which was second speaker opposition, I think we both agree that we liked your presentation. You had a lot of facts. I like that. The point of information was there was a valid point of information that was raised. I also liked your tone. The tone said to me that there was some amount of doom. And I felt that, so I got the fear out of that. So for me, you were arguing quite nicely the whole notion of we have more to fear than to cheer. I liked how you presented yourself. Alright? Oh yes, one thing. There's no such word as damages unless you're in a court of law. Alright? The word is damage. I think you made another error, but I didn't write it.
Yeah, I thought it was very good overall. Solid points. I could follow you. For the opposition, I think you missed the opportunity to counter the argument about employment, for instance. Because remember, I think Obama announced that there was a decrease in unemployment in the US in December. And we have to remember that. Because it's important. Not because he says not accepted means you cancel that one. You save it.
You bring it up in the rebuttal. Alright, second speaker, opposition. I felt that to me, you were much better than everybody. To me, personally, that's my personal thing. I like second speaker, opposition. I love the use of the illustration. It was very, very effective. It was very good. Very, very good. So I like the fact that the thing is, you had sources, and I like the fact how you use your sources. You have to work, you have to remember though, to kind of not go too fast. Alright, because we are listening, and if it goes to grade you, we have to listen, you have to hear what you have to say. So you have to be careful not to go too fast. Alright, but I felt that you were a very, very good one of the better speakers today.
I didn't think any much well information, as I was saying.
No, you can't. Alright.
Yeah, I thought he got a little rapid with the point of information, and I thought the speech was too heavy. And this is a matter of organization for the opposition as well. If you look at the proposition, they looked at first speaker, tourism, manufacturing, second speaker, economics, third speaker, culture, fourth speaker, politics. First speaker, opposition, Halloween, not sure if I got it right. Second speaker, three things, education, media, environment. Third speaker, problem solving. Doesn't sound like you were working together. So Aldean seemed to carry the bulk of the content for your team. And I thought the first response, the point of information when you cut off, when you were finished, because you had answered the question, I thought that was good, but afterwards you sort of got yeah.
So remember that when there's a point of information, listen, that is why we say, for example, down to you, that's why we say, for example, that when you construct your speeches, it's important that sometimes you space the paragraphs, so that if there's a point of information, when you go back to the paper, no, you're not trying to fight to find where you were. Alright? The third speaker proposition, you focus. Alright. First of all, you had a very good point about global warming, and then you did not fully develop it. That was a very good point about the mere fact that you said something about global warming affecting us, and there's okay, don't bother. You have to be careful, alright? That was a very good point, but you didn't develop it. You were reading too fast. Remember, you are debating, so you can't go too. Even if you're nervous, I know sometimes nerve causes you to read a little faster than usual, but you have to be careful to kind of slow it down. And especially when you have very strong points, that is where you want us to listen. You know, listen to this, listen to this audience, listen to these judges, and you modulate the voicing, especially when you have a very good point. All right, we felt that as judges at some point you were literally cutting your eye at the audience. I'm not sure if you interpreted it that way, or at them, at your opponents. And in the end, you have to be careful. You don't want to come across as overly, let me put it this way, overly arrogant. All right, so you have to be very, remember, diplomacy is important also in a debate. So you have to kind of contain yourself a particular way, because the judges, of course, it is very interpretive how we view things. And this might not have been intentional, but that is how it came across. So you have to slow it down. You have very good information, but connecting it also to the more to fear than to cheer. That's not fair.
I agree. I thought, I mean, in my interaction with you, I don't think you're snobbish, but if I saw you for the first time today, I think you're a snob. Because you seem quite arrogant, and it was as if you're talking above us because you're going so fast, and it was just a turn off. But I thought the points were there because I actually heard what you were saying, but you need to slow down. Your point of information when you responded, you said it was not healthy. Second time I said it, you said it was not healthy. And I asked myself, if you have to try to find a way to paraphrase what your sources are saying. because you can't repeat the same thing. You shouldn't really repeat it twice. But I thought the points were very good, just that the audience needs to hear and they need to feel comfortable enough listening to you to listen.
Alright, third speaker, opposition. I'm not sure, I might not be as learned as you are, but I've never heard of the word gladdened. Is there such a word? You know that word?
I am not sure. But it sounds strange. And because it sounds strange, no, hold on, listen to my point. Listen to my point. When you speak to people and you're trying to persuade them, things should flow smoothly and ease into their ears. And once you're reading something and it just sounds weird, change the word. That's all I'm saying. Because like people pause, whether or not it's a word or not, they pause and they stop listening for a while, gladden a word, and then move on. So when in doubt, change the word.
Yes, alright. I liked your point. You refuted a point of information, which I think I liked how you responded, and you used there was nothing to fear than fear itself. I felt that that was a nice way of refuting what was asked of you.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit too long in the past, and then you only gave one modern example. Another thing, you had a good point. One what? General?
Yeah, functional
to me, it's some, I mean, in terms of, okay, the length of the argument we're discussing the past seemed very long, and the mood seems to be based in the present. And also, you had a good point with the sociological perspective, a little dysfunction is okay, and that is what you need to develop on some more, that these things, challenges are normal. It doesn't mean that we are doomed.
Right. Because sometimes
and you sort of abandon that argument earlier.
The best in us most times comes out of when we have some serious challenges. That's when people even become more creative. Alright, the fourth speaker, proposition, he focused on politics. I felt that his argument was fully, I liked his presentation, and I liked the fact that he had some facts. But as I said to people, as I said, remember, even though it's 5 minutes, it doesn't mean that you're going to have 1 or 2 sources. Alright? We had a third speaker last year, and I don't know how Ramin was able to do it, but he had sources upon sources, and he was always the last speaker. 5 minutes. And he always had sources. Remember, whatever you say must be backed up. And when you have more sources and you're able to manipulate your sources, you convince us. But if you make a point, quote a source, and then you're developing and you're arguing along the way without any additional sources, then we are not so sure how to take that, because even if we know it to be true or we heard it on the news or whatever, we need some kind of documented facts. Alright?
Yeah, I agree. I thought you had a point with the political tribalism. You probably needed to develop it a little bit more, because that was one of the bases of your argument. I like the use of human irony, and I thought your response to the point of information.
Alright, in terms of the rebuttal, alright, as I said, as Ms. McClary said too, I felt that opposition did not listen as well as they should. They have to listen to what is being said in order to refute. That's just really you had some good points, but I felt that you need the entire team. No one person should be listening, you know. The listening should be done by all members. Alright, and sometimes when you go to do a point of information, probably you need to consult with your members first and say, I'm going to ask this, is this a good point, or how best can I ask, or who's going to ask this? Alright, so organization and teamwork and all of that is very, very important. Alright, for the proposition, I felt you killed them in the proposition, in the rebuttal. I felt that he was able to cherry pick your arguments and just kill them one by one.